I'm currently on a cruise on a brand new cruise ship where I've been one of the first people in the entire world to test a roller coaster that launches you at speed into a water slide. I've seen incredible venues change before my eyes, I've enjoyed high-tech dining, took a trip down a 10-story drop slide, and all of this before the ship has officially launched. I've been cruising with Norwegian since I was 11, but this trip has been so different to anything I've ever done before. It definitely didn't all go to plan. In fact, we weren't sure at one point if it would happen at all, but because absolutely nothing has been off limits on this trip, I can show you the behind the scenes of everything. The ship I'm on is appropriately named Norwegian Aqua. She has 16 bars, 14 restaurants on board, she's 20 decks high, and as long as 14 tennis courts or 64 full-size cars. She's a big cruise ship. I usually avoid sailing on new cruise ships when they launch because maiden voyages are notorious for things going wrong, and like anything, cruise ships do take a while to settle in. As I was going to be on the sailing before even the maiden voyage, I hoped that everything would be ready for our trip. I wasn't sure who else would be on this trip, I didn't know if I'd be able to try everything in just a few days, but the chance to be the first on board was too exciting, so I decided to take the risk and to come on board. A lot was riding on this ship and her launch. Norwegian said that she would be the most innovative cruise ship ever, and I figured either it would go well or it would be a great story to tell you, and it is that. The cruise didn't get off to a great start. I woke up on embarkation day and I had a text that said that the port was completely closed due to bad weather. The ship was out there, she was waiting, she just couldn't get in because of really high winds. From the initial planning stage to having the ship ready takes around 4 years, and it had cost over $850 million, so we were all desperate to get on board. I'm sure everybody who worked at Norwegian was feeling very nervous. The ship did make it in eventually, and from land I could see the aqua coaster on the top deck and the drop slide. She certainly looked like an exciting cruise ship, and I personally love all of these colours. I knew that I wanted to try things like the slide on this cruise, but I couldn't imagine that they would open them if the weather stayed like this. I was hopeful though. When we boarded the ship, we walked into this incredible main atrium. It's split over multiple levels, and I really like the look of the stairs and the artwork. It is light, it is bright, and it is very modern. I think the atrium here looks like it has jellyfish on the ceiling, so let me know if you see that too. This area really is the heart of the ship, with things like the reception desk and a Starbucks. During our cruise, they would often have live music in here too, and you could hear it over the multiple levels in the different bars, which was nice. The same design continued down the corridors and onto the stairs. The whole ship felt so new, and it did have a new ship smell. It smelled like new carpets, very, very clean. We were the first guests ever to be on board though, so it makes sense. Our sailing was before even the naming ceremony, which is meant to give a ship good luck. I hoped that we wouldn't have bad luck because of that, but only time would tell. I knew exactly where I wanted to go for dinner, and I did not waste any time getting there. I headed along deck 8 to indulge food hall. This is one of my favourite areas on the ship, and I have visited it so far every single day of the cruise. What you do is you take a seat at any table and you order the food on the iPad. It is then made at these food stations and it's brought over to you. It's kind of like a cross between a buffet and a traditional restaurant. The menu changes for lunch and dinner, and all of the food in here is included in the cruise fare. There's water, tea, coffee, and juices included too. The juice machine was very fancy, and this was just one way that I would see technology popping up all over this ship. I recently cruised on Norwegian's oldest cruise ship, Norwegian Spirit, who I love, so going from that ship to the newest was really interesting. Norwegian Aqua is more than double the size of Norwegian Spirit, and compared to the first ever Norwegian Cruise Line cruise ship, Norwegian Aqua, she is 15 times bigger. We ordered a selection of foods and they were all very good. They come as soon as they're ready, so the food is always fresh, and there is absolutely no limit on how much you can order. If you're not full, you can just order some more. You can see pictures of every dish too, and I love that. I wish every menu everywhere had pictures on it. There is a really lovely outside seating area around Indulge Food Hall on the promenade deck. It wraps right around the back of the ship, but at this point that was just a distant dream. I hope that I would be able to wander around there soon, because it did look nice from what I could see. I cruised a little while ago on Aqua's sister Prima, and when I was on there, I watched a show called Rumours in a venue called Sid Norman's. It was very popular and the venue was small, so I was really excited to see that this show had been moved to the theatre. The Sid Norman's venue does still exist and there are shows in there every single night, it's just this one they decided to move it. We headed there next and we sat up on the second level. I was a bit unsure if this show would translate into a bigger room, as it was very much about enjoying the story and the music of Fleetwood Mac in an intimate live music kind of setting, but I'm very happy to say that it did work on the big stage too. The theatre itself is very impressive. The seats are spread over 3 levels, every seat is comfortable, and there are cup holders for every single seat. If this was just a theatre and that was it, I would have been quite happy, but this was just the start. As the show ended, the people on the lower levels were asked to go up a level so that the seats could be put away for the 90s party. When you hear seats being put away, you might imagine people picking up the chairs and stacking them in the side like some sort of school disco, but it was nothing like that. The seats fold down flat and they slide away completely. This area transforms into the most amazing club and we had so much fun in here. These lights are amazing and I just think it's such a great use of space. It is so much better than having a standalone nightclub that just is empty for most of the day. As people are already in here too, it means that the party can get started straight away. Norwegian did a really good job of having crew members in the crowd and on the stage that would kind of encourage people to join in. After a dance with my friend Sherry from Cruise Tips TV, I decided to call it a night. I went to bed in my cabin, which is what is called a club balcony cabin. It is basically a balcony cabin, but it is extra long because of the shape of the aft of the ship. I've always said that the sister ship Prima has my favourite balcony cabins ever, and I'm happy to say that the ones on Aqua are almost identical, so I loved it too. I slept very soundly, and when I woke up, I realised that we were still in Lisbon. Because of the bad weather, we weren't able to sail away, and it was announced that we would be staying in Lisbon for a few days and missing our port in Rotterdam. I was quite relieved to hear that, to be honest. I hoped that that would mean that we would miss the worst of the weather. It did not work like that, but Lisbon is still a beautiful backdrop and I was happy to stay put. Some people were meant to disembark in Rotterdam, so they had to leave the ship here in Lisbon. It was a shame, but safety always has to be the main priority of a cruise ship. I headed to the local for brunch with a couple of my friends. I had an omelette and some fruit, and that was exactly what I needed. I'm not a morning person and I don't really like breakfast foods much, so the fact that this was open and open all the time was great. The buffet, indulge and the main dining room were all open for breakfast too, and that usually closed around 10 AM. Norwegian have always had venues like the local on their ships. The names have changed throughout the years. On my first cruise it was called the Blue Lagoon, and on many ships it's called Oceans. The idea is the same though, it's a bar and a restaurant that's open 24 hours a day. It's a great place to grab a burger or a sandwich, the chicken wings are very popular, and I don't think I've ever had a bad meal here on any of my 15 Norwegian cruises. The service was always good, and they have things like the ketchup just on the tables. I wish every table that I ever sat down at anywhere just already had the ketchup on it, to be honest, because it would save me always having to ask. I always want ketchup. All of the food here is included in the cruise fare. I would try some specialty restaurants later that weren't included, but right now I was more than happy with this. The specialty restaurants are something extra, but I'd be happy just to always eat the included food too. As the weather was pretty terrible, we decided to head to the spa, which is inside the ship. The spa isn't somewhere where I normally spend a lot of time when I cruise, so it was really lovely to get to see what was on offer. It's normally really hard for me to film inside a spa for obvious reasons, so it was great to get to do that on this cruise. The 2-story waterfall was amazing, and I did go for a dip in the pool. There are thermal passes available to buy for this area and lots of treatments too. We spent a little bit of time in the different saunas and steam rooms. I genuinely did think that these were eggs for a while, and that did confuse me. An eggy sauna is not what anybody wants. They're not eggs, by the way, they're just rocks. We went from the saunas to the ice room, and that one I really liked a lot. My favourite part was probably these heated loungers. I'm not sure what it was about them, but I just found them so relaxing, and I think it's that lovely spa smell that has something to do with it too. After lunch, we headed up to the top deck to have a quick look at the pool deck and to grab a bite to eat in the buffet. Norwegian have made this pool deck a little bit bigger than on the earlier versions of the ship, which is nice, and I love the small touches like the headrests and the fact that there's tables for every sun lounger. Exploring the top decks a little more, we found lots of places to sit and a splash zone for the kids. There weren't many kids on our cruise, given that it was just journalists and press and travel agents. There were some kids though, so I'm not quite sure where they came from. I'm guessing that they were related to some employees or something. I don't think the kids were here, working on their own businesses. A lot of the top deck space is taken up by the slide coaster, Vibe Beach Club and the Haven, but this ship has the benefit of all of this promenade deck space, which no other cruise lines have. It's more like the outside space is just spread out, rather than everybody being around one pool like it often is on the older ships. There's a pool bar up here and the buffet too. I love this design of the buffet, and I really like how it has all of these windows down the side. The buffet definitely could be a lot bigger, but we were always able to find somewhere to sit. During breakfast and lunch, they would open up the specialty restaurants opposite as extra seating, which was good, and we'd sometimes sit outside in this area. There were heaters here and it was nicely protected from the weather. Norwegian have the cutlery already on every single table, so you don't have to faff around trying to get it and carry it yourself. The pizza in the buffet was really good, and I mean really good. It was doughy, it was yummy, it was amazing. We came back here for a couple of meals during the cruise, and we always found lots of things that we liked to eat. This cake was a favourite of mine, and this cupcake was so good. We decided that we wouldn't let the bad weather put us off, so we headed up and out to go and play a few games. They have ping pong, shuffleboard, and games like table football in an area called the Stadium. Up higher, there's a pickleball court too, and it was here that I sheltered from the rain one day when trying to go on the aqua coaster. One area that is totally new on this ship is an area that's called the glow court. That's up here too, and it's a place where you play interactive games. Every time I was up exploring these places, I would be reminded of that drop slide, which I had promised myself that I would go on. Somewhat luckily for me, at this point it was closed, so I didn't have to brave it just yet. I could see the aqua coaster up here too, but it was closed because of the wind. I really hoped that I would get to have a go because it was so much fun. I'd seen them practicing using test dummies, which were basically big jugs of water. The jugs had all come back successfully, so that was a good sign. At one point, we did see them let a few people on, and then we saw the jugs come back around the other side. So for a while, we joked that this slide was just turning people into jugs of water. I did not want to be turned into a jug of water. Also up on the top decks was the mini golf. There is an extra charge for this, but it's not a lot, and I think honestly, given that the ship holds 3,500 people, they kind of need to charge for it. At least with the charge, that means that you only get people that actually want to play it that do it. Otherwise, you sort of get people hanging around, getting in the way, and that's quite annoying. It wasn't the normal mini golf either. The ball has a chip in it and it is assigned to you. It automatically keeps score of how many times you've hit it, and it gives you extra points if you complete certain bonuses. We were freezing, but we had a great time. Each hole is themed to a different country, so I did do a little bit of gondoling, is that a word? On the Italian hole. My friend Tony, who you may recognise from the Lido Loca channel, he won the golf, which was no surprise to me. It was around now that I started to notice a few differences between Aqua and her younger sister Prima. Cruise ships are called sisters when they use the same design. The location of some of the venues was different, especially on the lower decks, and they have extended some areas like the casino. I loved this Metropolitan lounge here, and it definitely has changed a little bit. It really felt very luxurious, very relaxing, a nice place to hang out in the evenings. They'd have live music in here too, and there was no shortage of live music around this ship. You can see here on this 3D model just how the slides fit on top of the ship. There's actually 2 tracks, and you basically race each other because you're launched at the same time. I think this model really shows just how big this ship is, and you can clearly see one of my favourite parts about Norwegian ships, and that is the promenade deck. On a lot of cruise ships, they don't have promenade decks at all anymore, or if they do, you can't see out of them because there are lifeboats in the way. I love how Norwegian always prioritised the view of the ocean. We saw that in the main dining room, the observation lounge, and here on the big promenade deck. There were lots of comfortable seats here, and there's infinity pools on either side. There's also this cool sculpture which always stood strong as the wind blew around it. Even though the weather wasn't great, having the option to walk around here, that was fantastic. And it did get better. We got word that the aqua coaster was ready, and we headed up to the top deck as fast as we could. I wasn't too sure what to wear, as it was a mix between a roller coaster and a water slide, but I went with my swimming costume with a swim dress over the top, and that was perfect. perfect. Some people went in their swimwear and some wore sort of more sporty clothes. A swimming costume is of course your Britishism of the week, and it usually refers to a one piece that a woman would wear swimming. It can be shortened to a cosy, or I would probably shorten it to swimmers. I would say I'm gonna go get my swimmers on. We stood in line and watched as other people headed off. It looked so fast at the start and I was nervous given that you aren't strapped in at all. The perk of being on this press cruise was that we were able to bring our cameras with us. If this was a regular cruise, I never would have been able to show you inside the tube, and I think that would have been a shame because the colours are so beautiful and you can see my face here just how much I'm enjoying it. After the fast start, it does slow down and you can see me here just like la la la. The tube is pretty big actually, and there's only a few dark spots inside. There's a couple of areas where people can look in, and that was quite funny. I felt like a fish in a fishbowl. You do get wet on this slide and the water is not heated, so it was freezing, but it was well worth it, and I'm glad that I got to have a go before the weather got really bad. We had our dinner in a brand new restaurant called Sukhothai, and this is probably my favourite specialty restaurant on board now. It used to be Los Lobos, but I think that this has taken the spot. Everything we ate was so tasty and it was just such a lovely meal. I really enjoyed not having to think about dress codes. Norwegian are a very casual cruise line and they don't have any formal nights at all. A jumper like this is fine. As long as you're dressed, you're pretty much good. I did see some people being told to wear shoes as they were walking through the buffet, but that is about it, and I think that's common sense. Sukhothai does have an extra charge, but most people who book a Norwegian cruise do end up booking it with some sort of promotion that includes specialty meals. I have the highest loyalty status with Norwegian, so I also get a couple included with that too. We ate in Onda and Palomar during our cruise too, and both were great. Onda normally makes me feel like I'm inside a whale. For people who don't have specialty meals included as part of a promotion, they can buy a dining package or they can just pay the cover charge of the restaurants. The ones on here range between $40 and $60 per person, plus a 20% gratuity. On some other cruise lines, specialty meals can cost into the hundreds of dollars, so I don't think that's too bad. Afterwards, we went into a bar called the Observation Lounge. It has windows right the way around, and it was always such a quiet, relaxing place to sit. They would have food in here sometimes too, and it was a nice alternative to going to the buffet or going to the sit-down restaurant if we just wanted to quickly grab a sandwich. I love this design of the lounge, and yes, all of these things are stuck down. That would become very important when we set sail from Lisbon. At first, it was okay, but it did not take too long until the rough seas and the high winds found us. As soon as we went out into the open ocean, it was immediately obvious why we were trying to avoid it. I saw the sickness bags coming out on the staircases, and my American friends gave me some bonine to try. I usually take quails, but I still suffer a bit in rough seas. With these though, my goodness me, it made rough seas fun because I felt totally fine. I have wondered all my life what it would be like to be someone who thought that the rough seas were fun, and I finally got to experience it. I enjoyed watching my bottle roll around and the hangers clanking in the wardrobe. I could eat as much as I normally do too. We had our dinner in the main dining room Hudson's one day. It is again a venue that really focuses on the view of the ocean, and there are windows all the way around. I don't think that this restaurant was named after our channel mascot Captain Hudson, but I have told him that it was. He deserves it, I think, after raising almost $150,000 for charity. He can have his restaurant. Usually seeing the horizon going up and down would make me feel quite ill, but I did not have any problems at all. Hudson's is the most beautiful restaurant, and the service in here is always good. I do normally eat early, so I was very happy to see that the main dining room opened at 5 p.m. That is my dream. We were almost the only people in there at that time, of course, but it did not matter. I went back another day for lunch too, and everything in here is included in the cruise fare. There's another main dining room down lower too, which is also included, and there are loads more bars and lounges where we spent our time. There are a few areas on board that I wouldn't normally experience on a cruise that I could because of the nature of this trip. The first is an area called the Vibe Beach Club. This is an adult-only deck, and you buy a pass to get access to it. I spent some time here on board Norwegian Prima when we were in Bermuda, and it was lovely. They even brought around trays of cookies at one point. I'm not sure if that is normal, but I absolutely loved it. When the sun came out, this was a great place to spend some time. The second place, which is normally off limits to me, but that I got to see, is called the Haven. It is the luxurious ship within a ship area, and I'll let you know more more about that one later, because I really did get to experience it in a way that I was not expecting. We also got to have a look at lots of different cabin types. I'm very nosy and I always want to have a look inside everybody else's cabin, so that was amazing. They listed out which cabins were available to view and we could just wander around. There was a little explainer outside the door and the door was open. The carpet on the floor does have a very useful feature. These arrows always point forwards. On some of the older Norwegian ships, they have fish that always swim forwards, and this is the same idea, it's just modernized. On most regular cruises, all of the cabins are filled. You can't just show up to somebody's room and expect a tour. I particularly liked getting to have a look inside an accessible cabin. It had a button to open the door, and the floor to get into the cabin and also the bathroom were completely flat. The room was much bigger too, and the bathroom had a big shower. Cabins like these do sell out very fast, so I always encourage people who need them to book as far in advance as possible. I got to see an inside cabin too, and I think that I would have been more than happy in here. It was very similar in design to my balcony cabin. I've stayed in lots of inside cabins in the past and they are totally fine. It's a great way to get on board a cruise as cheaply as possible. The bathroom is pretty much the same in all the cabins, and it's probably my favourite bathroom at sea. There's even a drawer for your things, which is unheard of. There's plenty of space, everything you need, and it just looks cool too. The lighting is great. The shower was powerful, there was no water spillage into the main room, and my only complaint was that the bathroom door would default to closing itself. If I wanted to go into the bathroom to fill up a couple of glasses of water, I would have to kind of use my foot to keep the door open. It was fine, but it just put me into some weird positions that I don't normally have to do on a cruise. We did also get the chance to play lots of games in the game zone. I have tried a few before, but I've never had free reign quite like this. I felt like a kid in an arcade. We tried our hand at bowling and went on the VR roller coaster. I decided to pick a game which was something about exploring a fridge. I have no idea, I just thought that that would be funny, and it was. We were flying around the cheese, we were jumping on the tomatoes. It was really odd, but it was a great laugh. In this area, you tap your cruise card to play, and I suppose it's the new version of when I used to play Pac-Man on my first ever cruise. The cruise card is what you charge things to when you're on the ship. It is your way on and off, and it's your way into the cabin. It is very important, and they gave us these Aqua branded lanyards. I'm not much of a lanyard person, to be honest, because it reminds me too much of my old office job, but still, I appreciate it. I did find free-to-play games around the ship too, like this random virtual reality game, which is by the photo center. The cool thing about this is that you can download the video directly to your phone just by scanning the QR code. The photo center is where you can buy the photos that the onboard photographers take. They also sell things like cameras and souvenirs. We didn't need to pay for the Wi-Fi to download the video or to use the cruise line's app, but I did have a Wi-Fi package on this cruise. I was able to do my live stream from my cabin, which was so much fun. My friends Sherry and Tony joined me unexpectedly on the stream. When they knocked at the door and I was live on YouTube, I did panic for a second because I thought it's maybe housekeeping or someone telling me off for being too loud. I don't know. It was so much fun though to have them be a part of it. Tony turned the stream into a dance party and that was lovely. Being together in the same place with so many people in the industry has been such a treat. We all love cruising so much, and so does my friend Doug from Cruise Radio. He didn't crash onto my live stream, but that's probably because he was busy working, creating his daily cruise news show, which he carried on doing from the ship. I was really impressed that the Wi-Fi could handle us all working as much as we were. Every person on board was constantly uploading content. I had the streaming package and I managed to catch up with the show that I'm currently watching. It didn't actually buffer once, which is great. The main headline show on board Norwegian Aqua is called Revolution, a Celebration of Prince. I have to be honest, I'm not a massive Prince fan, so I didn't know if I would like it. I imagined that it might be like a simple Prince concert, but I could not have been more wrong. I've never seen anything like it. The bottom level of the seats were removed so that there was space for people to stand, just like in a real concert. There were so many people singing and dancing, and at one point I counted 20 people on the stage in the most amazing sparkly outfits. The show was an hour long and they would move around the pieces of the stage to reveal the Prince symbol. It was really impressive and interesting even as somebody who isn't a big Prince fan. I imagine that if you were, it would have been even better. I had friends who went back multiple times because they loved it so much. Sadly, we couldn't film the show videos, so you're gonna have to use your imagination. Up until this point, I hadn't seen the 10-story drop slide open, mostly because of the bad weather. I knew that I would have to give it a go if I saw it open, but honestly, I was a little happy every time I saw it closed because I was nervous, and that was a great excuse. I was down on the promenade deck when I saw somebody sliding down. I knew then that I would have to give it a go. I even said to the crew member who was working at the bottom as I went by, "Oh, I'm going on the slide, I'll see you in a minute," just so that I can change my mind last minute. I headed up the stairs to deck 17 and I took my space inside the tube. The floor drops out beneath you completely and you fall down into the slide. You can see on my face here just how nervous I am because it was counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I honestly closed my eyes for a lot of this trip, so I can't really tell you what it was like inside, but I can tell you that it was very, very fast. I'm glad that I did it, but I definitely preferred the aqua coaster. The next day was the weirdest cruise day I've possibly ever had. It was disembarkation day and I had to be out of my cabin early, not because I was getting off though, but because I was moving. I was moving to the Haven. For those of you who don't know, the Haven is the area where all of the best suites are. I've cruised with Norwegian 15 times over the last 20 years, but I have never stayed there before. To find out what that was like and what I liked about the bathrooms in my cabin, yes, bathrooms, plural, check out this video next. This video is over on the Norwegian Cruise Line YouTube channel, so please let them know that I sent you over there. See you in a minute.